HighBridge, a division of recorded books, presents In the Time of Our History by Susanne Pari, read by Mozhan Marnò. For Shahram, and for all the writers, artists, and thinkers who have been silenced. Part 1. Sisters. In the time of our history, when the songwriter who imagined was murdered in New York, and the dictator Saddam invaded Iran, there was a girl who wanted to be as free as a boy in choosing her future. Her father, however, cared only that she marry a suitable young man. Her mother wanted peace all around. Despite his relentless nagging, the daughter refused an audience to any suitors who inquired. Soon it came to pass that the girl's younger sister, who was demure and obedient, and to whom the elder sister was supremely devoted, fell in love with a suitable young man of her own and wanted to marry. The father, recognizing this as an auspicious opportunity, pronounced that he would allow the marriage of his younger daughter only when the elder daughter consented to marry as well. Much to everyone's surprise, the elder daughter swiftly and dispassionately chose the next suitor in line. With great aplomb, the father sent invitations far and wide for a grand double wedding, at which point the elder daughter secretly visited a surgeon and had herself made barren, and therefore unmarriageable. The father, apoplectic with rage and determined not to lose face entirely, allowed the younger daughter to marry, but disowned the elder one, who happily moved far away to pursue her desires. Prologue. As a matter of coincidence, the American embassy hostages were released on the same day that Mitra Jahani had her tubes tied, January 20th, 1981. She saw the men on a wall-mounted television screen when she woke up from the surgery. The volume was low, but she heard their hoots and hollers, saw one punch the air in triumph, another one kiss the tarmac at the bottom of the mobile stairs. 52 of them, long-haired and bearded, looking fairly decent for having spent more than a year in the clutches of a group of young Iranian militants. Either I'm still zoned out and dreaming, Mitra thought, or I'm hallucinating. Mitra closed her eyes, counted to 5, opened them tentatively, and kept her gaze away from the television screen. Here was the top of her hand, covered in a mess of clear tape, sprouting a needle and IV tubing that snaked beyond her peripheral vision. Here was her body covered in a flimsy white hospital blanket, her big feet down there like 2 molehills. Her other hand, she realized, rested under the blanket on a thick strip of gauzy bandage taped to her lower belly. She turned her head slightly, and here was Olga, sitting next to her like Luca Brasi on a job for the Corleone family. The caption on the TV screen read, Vandenberg Air Force Base, Germany. With an oversized smile, President Jimmy Carter, actually former president by just a few minutes, was greeting the hostages for whom his administration had finally negotiated a release. This is surreal, Mitra muttered. Olga bolted up from her chair and bent forward. What you say, Mitra Jun? Mitra pointed weakly at the TV, coughed, then winced. Amazing how many stomach muscles were involved in a simple cough. You have pain, Olga pronounced anxiously in Farsi. She hurried into the hallway, her rubber-soled orthotics squeaking on the linoleum. Excuse me. I need nurse here. My girl, she'd need medicine for pain. You coming now? Now, you coming, please. Right way, please. Oh, thank you. A pill came to Mitra in a plastic cup. Olga's thick dishpan fingers tilted a glass of water to her lips. She swallowed and let her head fall back against the pillow. Now the caption read, Hostages return after 444 days in captivity. Okay, she wasn't hallucinating. Number 4, very bad luck, said a voice to Mitra's left. A Chinese woman in the other bed was shaking her head at the screen. 444, triple bad luck. Ignore her, said Olga in Farsi. Bad luck is more complicated than one number. Anyway, she is nosy, asking why a young girl such as you had a woman's surgery. She thinks you had an abortion and she wants to disapprove. You should have a private room. Mitra smiled thinly at the woman. To Olga, she shrugged and responded in Farsi. It's only one night. She gestured at the television, Why aren't you joyful, Olga June? No more yellow ribbons or bomb Iran songs. Mitra thought people would slowly forget the whole miserable crisis. Maybe they'd even revert to thinking of Iran as Persia, an exoticized place whose inhabitants lived in silk tents and rode camels. To think that such ignorance had once pissed her off, that she'd tried to correct people about where her parents originally came from, even to show them a map sometimes. She never thought she'd want that back again, that anonymous heritage. Olga said, I do not care any more about the hostages or the new President Reagan or Iran. May God castrate its mullahs. I am worrying about you, Mitra June, how you are and what you have done. She looked away. How I have helped you to do this terrible thing. Olga knew about operations. 11 times in her youth she had let the surgeons cut her. Operations to correct her, of no use. She remained infertile. This was what happened when girls were married off at 12 and pregnant by 13. A body too small to nurture another body. Death before life. A full-grown baby boy, gray as a dead tree, cut out of her like a useless goiter. The look of her bloated belly still told the story, the first cut, from breast to mound like a river on a map, the other cuts like silvery moonlit tributaries. Mitra had said her belly would not look like that. Just a small incision that would fade to a nearly imperceptible line, like a kitten scratch. The golden-haired doctor at the Institute in Manhattan had said so, his smile made stupid by the lie Mitra told him about an inheritable disease, and by his guilelessness about young women who say they do not ever want children anyway. Over the last weeks, Olga had begged Mitra, don't do this. Run away. Just run away. But Mitra always did what she wanted with the single-mindedness and impatience of a teenage boy with an erection. From the moment Olga set eyes on her at the New Jersey house just over 10 years ago, she knew that this girl, then just 13 years old, was a force. Rebellious, stubborn, determined. Takes one to know one, Mitra later taught her. Yes, Olga had seen herself in Mitra, herself as she once was. Are you hungry? Olga asked, sitting like a Buddha. America had made her fat. Hungry herself, but not wanting to eat. Mitra shook her head, eyes opening and closing. No. She blinked slowly. What time is it? Night. Mitra's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Go back to the hotel now, Olga June. Call Maman at 11 o'clock and tell her that the show was wonderful and we're safe in the room. You remember the name of the show? The one about the cats? Cats, that's what it's called. Cats. Remember. Olga nodded and wrung her hands like a murderer about to confess. I don't want to leave you, she said. Tell Maman I'm in the bathroom. Tell her I'm tired and we're going to bed. She won't need to talk to me. But you will be alone here. Olga, Mitra said sharply, have I ever minded being alone? Olga jerked her chin up and smacked her tongue against the roof of her mouth. A forthright Persian no. Go then, Mitra said. You have money for the cab, right? Olga rose and pulled a crumpled wad of dollars out of her raincoat pocket. I am going, she said. But she stood still, her vision suddenly blurring. Mitra smiled through her discomfort. Don't look like that. Everything is good. I am satisfied. You are strong, Azizam. Too strong. Mitra shook her head. No, she said in English. I'm free. Chapter 1. September 1998. She came to the East Coast for the first anniversary of her sister's death. It was the Shia way, to mark the death day, first at 7 days, then at 40, and finally at 1 year. Not that Mitra was a believer. She came because she felt sorry for her mother, still crestfallen and clutching tightly to the traditions she'd been trying to instill in her 2 daughters since they were born at Bergen County Hospital. Mitra had fought hardest against those rituals: Persian New Year parties, Zoroastrian festivals, Ramadan fasting. But now Mitra was her mother's only child. Dawn at Kennedy Airport. Round-edged melamine furniture, miles of burgundy carpet, burnt coffee smell, the air of a banquet hall the morning after a raucous party. A janitor harpooned candy wrappers and dirty napkins from the floor. Mitra heard the drone of a vacuum cleaner as she ordered an espresso from a cafe cart, then took a seat at the end of a bank of bucket chairs facing the windows. She was in no hurry to escape the boundaries of transit. On the tarmac sat a gaggle of airplanes, tinged pink in the daybreak. From a distance, say from the point of view of the logy barista who had served her espresso, Mitra looked unapproachable. This was not only because the barista was a young 20-something and Mitra just over the cusp of 40. Despite her jeans, plain white shirt, and tight-fitting leather jacket, Mitra exuded the self-assuredness of a power-suited executive. And there was strength in her face, the olive skin, chocolate eyes, long arched eyebrows, and especially the angular nose, not exactly hooked, not exactly humped, but definitely a feature that would have inclined most girls to opt for a slight surgical correction. Mitra scalded her tongue on the coffee, and her eyes watered. One of the airplanes trembled at the strain of its full-on engines, and she remembered tramping across the tarmac all those years ago, in the shadow of her parents, little Anahita clasping her ears and squinting against the noise of the rush of air, while Mitra jumped and giggled in the thrilling vortex of mechanical energy. Mitra belched softly, rubbed 2 fingers over the heartburn behind her sternum. Espresso and anxiety, well-behaved on their own, rambunctious as urchins together. She dropped her coffee into a trash can. Transit was just another word for limbo, and there was no such place, except maybe death. She got up, kicked her carry-on to a wheel-perfect slant, and made her way toward the moving walkway. Nearing the edge of transit, she quickened her pace, focused on the resolute clip-clop of her heels on the terminal's stone floor, and on a faraway exit sign not once eyeballing the small crowd of impatient, neck-craning welcomers, straining at the stanchions and barrier ropes. And yet, she caught a whiff of Anahita's Chanel No. 9, a glimpse of little Nina's pink hair ribbons, a snatch of Niku's pubescent belly laugh. Phantom memories. The car crash had taken all 3 of them: sister, niece, nephew. At baggage claim, Mitra stepped outside and bummed a cigarette from an oily-haired businessman with a French accent. She hadn't smoked in 15 years. The rental car was appliance white, a Ford something, itchy seats, bad radio. Mitra's mother had offered to pick her up, but Mitra said it was too early in the morning. The truth was, Shireen was a terrible driver, the kind who kept the steering wheel in constant motion, as if the mechanism needed second-by-second readjustment, who overcompensated on every turn and used the brake pedal like a pogo stick. It never occurred to her to wonder why her daughters got carsick only when she was at the wheel. Mitra adjusted the seat to accommodate her lower back, which ached from transplanting a manzanita bush in her yard the day before. The September sun splashed onto the parking lot, making the concrete shimmer. She dug into her purse for her sunglasses. The air already felt humid, and she longed for the cool fog of San Francisco. She merged into rush-hour traffic on the Van Wyck Expressway. She hoped it would take her a long time to get to New Jersey. It was hours before she was scheduled to pick her mother up for lunch. She could first drop her luggage off at her cousin Nizam's apartment in Manhattan, where she would be staying, but she felt too sluggish to deal with his 5-year-old twin boys. Besides a short, open-mouthed nap on the flight, Mitra hadn't slept. She was a bit numb, as if only half of her had landed in New York. She tuned into the NPR station and was struck, as always, by the flood of news and commentary on the Bill Clinton-Monica Lewinsky affair, its salacious details gravely analyzed by politicos and journalists, while they ignored the massacres in Kosovo, the embassy bombings in Africa, and the Rwandan genocide trial. In the Holland Tunnel, Mitra was ready when the memory of Anahita came to her. They were children in the back seat of her father's Cadillac, the tunnel like the inside of an animal's throat, yellow beams of light sweeping and flickering over their party dresses and lace-ruffled anklets, Anahita moving her rose-petal lips in silent child prayer to keep the Hudson River from crushing them, and Mitra leaning over to whisper in her ear, "Oh my God, I just saw a leak." The wicked memories. Wicked because Mitra had been wicked in those early years, Until later when Anahita was sweet Anna, red licorice smelling and cheeks like cool pillows and eyes that said, "Tell me what to do. Baby sister, unlucky sister, breakable to break Mitra's heart." Anahita who wanted and needed everything Mitra did not. Despite the traffic, Mitra arrived at the turnoff for Devon in an hour. The vehicle seemed to know its way, past the golf course at the country club where her father used to play tennis, trees hinting at the gold and red of autumn, through the condominiums development that had caused such a ruckus when her father's company built it 10 years before, over the plank bridge, now reinforced with steel, past the grammar school where Bobby Dowd had thrown a rock at her forehead from the top of the jungle gym, and Nancy Goldberg had lost a chunk of her red hair in Mitra's fist, and then into the town of Devon, named for the dairy cows, lowing ghosts now. 3 days short of a year ago, Nizam had driven Mitra here from the airport. Her brain had registered nothing of her surroundings. She'd felt numb since the phone call came that her sister was in serious condition from a car accident. Anahita and the children were already dead, of course, but this was the Jahani family way. News of death was not imparted over the phone, in a letter, or even in person until it was absolutely necessary, like on your way to the morgue. To take this tack was thought of as being sensitive, being careful not to shock the person. But that night, when Nizam turned the car, not into the hospital's parking lot, but the mortuary's, Mitra grabbed the collar of his jacket, yanked and shook, and screamed "coward" over and over. Poor guy. He was as devastated as she. No, he was better off. Everyone was. Only Mitra knew the accident might have been prevented. Worse, that she might have caused it. She and a man she'd never met. There were no empty spaces in front of the Starbucks, which had obliterated the Dairy Queen 2 years before. The main drag of downtown Devon still boasted a kosher deli and Kleinfeld's fine jewelry, but where the Woolworths used to be was a market that advertised fresh eel and Korean videos, a testament to the influx of Asian immigrants. There was a different nail salon every 2 or 3 stores, each offering mani-pedis at bargain prices. In every one, Mitra saw the ghost of her sister, hands and feet stretched out for painting. She parked in one of the diagonal spaces next to the train tracks. Even when she was a child, no trains came through here. The tracks had been left intact to lend a certain small-town quaintness to Devon. The old stone station was now Café Buon Gusto. Like so many suburban cafes, it was a restaurant, not a place where you could drop in for coffee, a pastry, and the newspaper. Mitra crossed the street, reminding herself with pleasure that jaywalking was generally ignored on the East Coast, and headed toward what used to be the corner candy store, where her father had forbidden them to go because only bad American children hang out there. Inside, it had been close and hot all year round. The floor-to-ceiling shelves packed with useless but gotta-have items that suburban children spent their allowances on. Baseball cards, glitter, fake mustaches, comic books, spinning tops, Mouseketeer hats, warm Pepsi, and a glass bottle. Mitra had never liked candy, but that hadn't prevented her from stealing a great many jawbreakers from the grizzled owner and his dwarfish wife, standing guard behind a peeling formica counter no bigger than a foot square. As Mitra went into the store now, 2 crimson-lipped matrons stepped around her, accents Jersey nasal, a plethora of tinny teas and yawning eyes. The store had a bright and roomy 7-Eleven look, with a smiling Bengali clerk behind the counter. Register has no more than $30 cash. Mitra averted her eyes from the shelves of primary color candy and snacks. Skittles, Nina squeaked in her ear, and from a small toy section where she'd once bought Niku a balsa airplane. She walked swiftly to the tall counter and asked for a pack of American Spirit Blues, forked over the bills, and was glad to find herself back on Main Street. She craved a latte but headed toward Devon's vintage diner, a sterling streamliner that she wished someone would restore. 2 cops sat at the counter, hunched, silent, ignoring the squawk of the radios weighing down their belts. The lone waitress, reddish-gray hair twisted into a small tire on the back of her head, refilled their mugs. Mitra slid into a booth. She remembered the waitress. Tammy. That was her name. Her hair had been copper red back then, and Anna was mesmerized by it. I bet it's down to her knees, she'd said. The bulbous configurations Tammy sculpted on the back of her head had run the gamut from donuts, several a la Joanne Worley, to stiff ringlets the size of slinkies. Who cares? Mitra had said. Why doesn't she ever wear it down? Because, stupid, it's against the law. Eyes wide. Why? She's serving food. She has to wear it up so it doesn't get in the food. Oh. Their mother used to drop them off at the diner sometimes when she had errands to run, order them a banana split to share. Mitra wouldn't let Anna touch the chocolate ice cream, would shove the nuts onto Anna's side of the bowl, even though Anna hated the nuts as much as she did, and painstakingly ate around them. The waitress had always been nicer to Anna and had once brought her a scoop of chocolate in a little dish. Mitra was livid, and she quickly drummed up a story. Chocolate is more fattening than vanilla or strawberry, so chubby kids like you shouldn't eat it. Tammy served Mitra a cup of coffee that tasted like a blend of instant and yesterday's grounds. Mitra looked at her watch. 8:30. Time was not flying. She thought about reading the paper and glanced at a much-fingered tabloid sitting on a stool across the aisle. Stained, it shouted, referring to Monica Lewinsky's dress. She shook her head slowly and realized with sudden disgust that it was a gesture her father made when he was feeling contemptuous, which was often. She clenched her jaw. Being back meant she would have to deal with him. She contemplated the sticky menu. She could order some eggs, even pancakes. Why don't you ever get fat, Miti? Her finger grazed a rip in the vinyl cushion next to her. She looked down. A long slit and yellow stuffing. I'll sit on the rip, Miti. You sit on the other side. Short, pudgy legs, white sandals dangling inches above the speckled floor. Mitra left a 5 for the $1 coffee. On the way out, she leaned across the counter to Tammy. Your hair's beautiful. Do you mind me asking how long it is? Just under my bra strap now, Tammy said, eyes gleaming to life. Used to be down to the backs of my knees, hun, but that was a long time ago. Downtown Devon was too small and flat. Going for a walk in San Francisco was an aerobic workout no matter how leisurely you strolled. Mitra got back into the car and reached for her phone, stopped herself before dialing Julian. She didn't want to wake him. He'd been on call last night. She imagined him taking up the whole of her bed, half of his face on her pillow, his long legs spread to the bottom corners. It wasn't that she missed him, really. She just craved the whispery baritone of his voice, the slur of his British accent. It might help her to step back from the gray swirl of Devon before it sucked her in, but she dropped the phone back into her purse. She drove out of town, up the long hill the school bus used to take, and veered off into a neighborhood of houses on 1-acre plots. Many had been renovated, but they bore the remnants of the extra-tall double-entry doors and wrought-iron railings of mid-century fashion. She took several streets, left, right, down, around, driving by rote the way she applied lip gloss without a mirror. She parked and walked, stepping over cracks and avoiding potholes that had grown wider and deeper but remained childhood markers. At the edge of the school playground was a bench she didn't remember. She sat and closed her eyes, let the sun hit her face. Anahita had been 3 years behind Mitra in school. The first day of 3rd grade, Anna's first day of kindergarten, Anna ducked under Miss Callahan's outstretched arm, ran straight for the 3rd grade class lining up in the hallway, and tried to hug her sister. Mitra gritted her teeth and pushed Anna away. Go back to your class. And later on the school bus, you sit in the front and I sit in the back, and don't come up to me at school. Anahita had obeyed, as she always did. Not once after the first day did she look toward Mitra, not when she was teased and taunted for her frizzy hair, not even when she broke her arm falling from the slide. Not until Anna was 12, when suddenly everything changed between them, when it was too late for Mitra to expunge those callous acts, at least not in her own mind. Mitra startled as the gymnasium door burst open and regurgitated a gaggle of exuberant children. She stood, gathered her purse, and noticed a metal plaque screwed into a lower slat of the bench. Niku and Nina. Gone too soon. Eyes stinging, careful not to stumble, she headed for the car. The old residential part of Devon had experienced a madness of boomer remodeling, what Mitra thought of as a reawakening of post-war nuclear family idealism. She made a K-turn and parked across the street from the bungalow Anahita and her husband once owned. After the accident, Bijan had taken a month's leave of absence from his bank job, spending most of it in bed reacquainting himself with his collection of bongs. The bank had finally honored his request for a transfer to their London office. Mitra had spoken to him once before he departed, a short conversation that left her feeling cold. She knew they might not talk again for a long while. He couldn't bear it. She missed him now, especially his Jimmy Stewart stutter and his dry jokes about impotent bankers. She opened the window and lit a cigarette, promising herself to drive off when she finished it. A breeze whisked the smoke out the window. Sun glinted off the side mirror. She lifted her gaze to study the house. Same, only different. Anahita would notice the film of dust on the black shutters and the faint brown spots on the lawn. She would hate that the wooden screen door had been replaced by a cheap metal one, that the front porch where she'd had Adirondack chairs and hanging plants was now a parking spot for 2 adult bicycles and a half-dead, left-leaning ficus. Did the new owners know the sad story of their predecessors? They must, Mitra decided. Neighborhoods owned the tragedies of their inhabitants. The new people were no doubt solid American white people, not immigrants like her parents who weighed every story for bad luck and bought a different house. Mitra turned the car off to hear suburbia, a distant lawnmower, barking dogs, a woodpecker knocking itself out on a telephone pole, the faraway chatter and laughter of the playground, sounds of her childhood, sounds Anahita loved and Mitra hated. She broke her promise and lit another cigarette from the butt of the first one. Anahita would have scolded her. She'd never smoked, never done anything their parents would have disapproved of. Mitra's opposite. A maroon minivan pulled into Anahita's ex-driveway, and a young woman in gray sweats jumped out, opened the back door, and reached in to tug a tow-headed toddler out of the car. The child wore a pink sundress and white sandals. Mitra saw, even though she was too far away to see, each of the child's pink toes with their moon-shaped nail beds and pliant white cuticles. Her throat swelled. She turned the key in the ignition, turned it again, and the mechanism grated. With a jolt, she drove off. She'd been holding her breath, it seemed. She was on the shoulder next to the golf course. Gasping, she inhaled the odor of fresh-cut grass and fertilizer. The digital clock on the dash read 9:15. She cursed herself for avoiding Libby and Nazam's apartment. She could have dropped her luggage off, taken a shower, skipped the tour of Devon altogether. A year goes by and you think you're strong, and then you're not. She rummaged for her cell phone and dialed her mother's number. "Hello," he said. Stunned at the sound of the wrong voice, Mitra clenched her jaw. She couldn't remember her father ever leaving for the office later than 8:30. Then again, it had been 17 years since she'd been witness to his schedule. She swallowed dryly. "Hello, Baba." Silence. Would he hang up? Go ahead, Mitra thought. Hang up. And he did. Chapter 2. His hand tingled from slamming the receiver into its cradle. A chip of plastic had flown off the machine and been swallowed by the nap of the bedroom carpet. The one morning Yusuf Jahani had slept in, had not set his alarm for 6 a.m., and had indulged in the sight of the news anchor's sleek legs while he looped the ends of his silk tie, was the one morning that the telephone rang at 9:15 and his wife was not the only person home to answer. He shouted into the hallway, "That was your daughter!" But Shireen was already down in the kitchen. Scowling, he donned his suit jacket in one swift motion, snapped on his gold watch, swept up his briefcase, and descended the stairs at an age-defying clip. "That was your daughter!" he barked across the kitchen at his wife's back. "Oh!" She pivoted from the sink, an eager smile lighting up her raccoon-eyed face. He glanced at the table, an omelet, warmed lavash bread, feta cheese, honeycomb waiting for him. Shireen's smile evaporated, her mouth twitching with remorse. "Yusuf, June," she pleaded. "I'm sure she thought you were at the office." "Thanks to you, Shireen, I am not." She took a tentative step forward, wiping wet hands on her apron. "Did you speak to her?" He snorted, shook his head in disgust, and strode for the door that led to the garage. The woman was impossible.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?